prevent you from succeeding in this, they likewise are prosecuted for treason. So this whole thing is about ending the destruction of our country, and the whole cycle of it has the strongest stop put at every juncture that exists. And if we're not willing to assert this, shame on us, because why should you pay a bank that only issues evidence of your promissory obligation to retire principal from circulation? Why should you be paying them 5 houses for your house and to lose your house after you miss the last 3 payments before you pay the damn thing off? And they will take your house from you then, So this is it. Either we understand what's wrong here and we stand up for it, or we suffer the fate of the wimps that we are.
Yeah, we're all put into a mindset of fear. I must admit that's very, very difficult for many people to bypass, especially when they look at the possessions as being important to them. The house they've worked most of their life to get, and they could potentially lose it by going up against the system.
Sure, but so, what does the sheriff do? He's about to lose his house. They may have to lay off the sheriff because they're not collecting the taxes, and so some of the deputies might have to be laid off. He's in the same boat that we are. So what does he do? He notifies not just the bank that he's going to stand by these people, that they're right. He's read this thing. He studied it. It's absolutely right. He can't find a fault in it. And so he calls up the people that come and, lock your house up, change the locks and all that, the repossessors. And he says, you're not going to do that in my town. If I find any changed locks, we will personally escort the people into their house, however it takes. You are not evicting anyone from a house. We are trying this issue in our town, and you have no legal authority to do this. And if I find you in our town attempting to do any such thing, you will go straight to jail, and you will not be let out until this thing is over.
I know you've mentioned that it is available in, or would be available in, most countries of the world. You mentioned, you're mentioning sheriffs. I should look around for Canada because I've never really found
you might
specific
have a
sheriffs off it.
Police force, but you would implement it the same way.
Yeah, I know the descriptions that we've always come across, that the sheriff is different than the standard police. Certainly in England, where I came from, and in Ireland, where it's discussed quite a lot at the moment, there is a sheriff, and they are separate to the police. In the US, there's a sheriff's department, which is different from, the state police and other city police forces. So they're different again, but I don't know. I have to figure it out for Canada.
There's a little qualifying statement at the top of the mandate which explains that any differences for the local country are to be implemented in like manner, meaning that, well, if you don't have any police, the best you can do is go yourself.
Yeah.
But
so how much understanding do people need of this then, Mike? Because obviously we started off the conversation with trying to understand mathematically perfected economy and the history of the banking and how we got into the mess that we're in at the moment.
Well,
but if this takes off,
currency is the cause of failure. And then that's all you need to understand. When a person gets that, the lights go on, and they start seeing that all these things about rescuing the banking system are downstream consequences. The reason the peripheral banks are failing is because of the multiplication of artificial indebtedness on the people, making it impossible for them to continue servicing their debts. As industry fails and they lose jobs and the whole thing starts caving in, the peripheral banks go down. But that isn't because the banking system itself is failing. The central bank is the real banking system. The peripheral banks are just interface between us, and they're part of the facade that we have to borrow money from a bank because you have to borrow it from the peripheral bank. The peripheral bank indeed complies and borrows it from the central bank, you see, but the central bank just creates it. And so that's the problem. We, in truth, are creating money through our promissory obligations ourselves. The difference is mathematically perfected economy eradicates the bankers. It eliminates the bankers from the equation. So all mathematically perfected economy is eradication of interest and obligatory schedule of payment at the rate of consumption or depreciation of the related property. That's mathematically perfected economy right there. What's that mean? $100,000 home with a 100-year lifespan, linear rate of depreciation, and in our transformation we decide what rates of depreciation we want to apply to whatever given classes of property. All I provide is a default rate of depreciation to apply from the start. And so, all that can be changed. It's simply matters of accounting. You could say, oh, well, we want to apply this to these things. Well, you know, the thing is to get this thing done in no time at all. So basically, people are doing in this thing what I have advocated to do, what I explained to the Reagan administration in my original paper on this, how to convert any lie of economy, the present system, in a mathematically perfected economy in a day. And basically, you arrest the failure by seizing all payments on all debts arising from the obfuscation of the currency. So that means no payments on any debts to banks. Stop. It's like, as Ann Minch said in a discussion I had with her about this, a timeout. You know, she was just, you know, putting names to things as we went along. She followed along very, very, very well. Understood it the first time through, you know. So she said, so this is a timeout. Yeah, it's just a timeout. It's not saying we're not going to pay our debts, which were originally promissory obligations, which by nature are only obligations to pay principal out of circulation, and under mathematically perfected economy, which solves inflation and deflation, therefore are subject to only an obligatory schedule of payment, because it's the obligatory schedule of payment which pays the money out of circulation, retires it from circulation, so that the remaining circulation is always equal to the remaining value of all represented property.
Okay, just a quick one there, Mike, before you continue.
Go ahead.
What about the couple that have been in their house, 20 years, and they've in essence already paid their mortgage and then some? The banks actually owe them money because they've already paid for their house twice by now.
That's the way that you're going about it is the right question to pop in your head. And the initial tendency would be to go at it that way. Okay, so they paid how much more? How much does the banking system owe to them? Those banks don't even exist. They were bought by these people over here, then by these over there, then these over here. They don't even have the original documents or the records. How do we determine all these things? It's a goddamn mess. Can't do it. Well, that's an initial assumption you can come to. But here's the brilliance of it, if I would. You don't have to do it that way. You don't have to figure it that way at all. As I said, what would you be doing in your life if you lived under mathematically perfected economy and we decide, let's get rid of this socialism, no social security. We are instead, we are going to force people so that they don't become a burden on society during their working life, instead of taxing them, taking this money, pretending we're investing it in places, losing our butts, charging them more, not having enough to sustain them that we promised because we gutted this system for all these other different things, which were all violations of our original promises and the original premises of doing this. Instead of doing that, why not allow us to keep our own money, preserve the value of money by mathematically perfected economy, and allow us to spend it so as sustains our standard of living through the rest of our life? instead of taking from us and stealing, why not leave it to us, the people, to whom it belongs, and who will spend it, and leave it to our own discretion how to do that, subject to some rules we decide to adopt in common so that we account for an equal standard of living in our retired years. Now, in truth, we might want to work to further into our lives, because that's what life's about, But I'm just giving an example of how we might decide to do, something differently. And I'm going to answer your question with my example then. So instead of saying, oh, well, this couple lost so much, because they paid for this house, and they refinanced it 3 times because the system was going down. We could see that actually in 1975, and they went through some hard times for 13 years, and, they refinanced their house 7 times, whatever, So we got this complicated situation, to unravel before, penny by penny, we eventually come up with an idea, which is an application of a principle that has to apply to all of us, which determines for that couple, for whatever they went through, is exactly how much money the banking system owes them. Hell with all that. Let's start over again. Let's realize that, likewise, there's another person who couldn't even become a couple because they had a turn of bad events in their life. And they were even prevented from becoming a property owner because of the magnitude of these events, although they're indeed a very talented, skillful, and productive person. They have been robbed like you can't believe just by the course of their life. But because they were never paying against the house or houses and never lost, do we not reward them likewise? I say hell with it. Why do all that? Why go through all that and bickering and being so small that we bitch about every little iota of this, that, or, oh, I want this because I want to buy a new teacup set, or whatever kind of crap is plaguing us? Instead, just figure out across the board, hey, look, we got to start over. These numbers show we can do it. Let's just say, okay, this is how much further wealth circulation should be in existence to sustain the commerce and payment for it. Let's credit the people's accounts in a general manner by a general formula which restores to them, by dividing this up equally, the amount of savings they would have accumulated in their life to that point of the life, given that, okay, they've worked so many years, or they've worked so many other years, or they've worked so many further years, or they're retired so much. So there's a general pattern of accumulation of earnings, which would apply to a peak of savings at the beginning of retirement, which then is consumed over the remainder of lifespan. So wherever any person is in this general formula, which applies one principle to everyone, it restores to all of us what's been lost as much as can be restored, so that we don't violate our principles of inflation and deflation. You see? So that's how I propose to do it. To not go at it from every, drawing the dust out of every nookie and cranny in the floor, and seeing whatever we can turn up to get squeeze out of every cent out of everyone, when we only have so much that we can distribute to the accounts of the people in abiding by this rule anyway. And basically, I see so much leeway for error not affecting anyone to any really truly substantial degree, that it's one of those what the heck things. Come on, let's just take the rest of it and distribute it according to the pattern of savings that we want to impose upon ourselves. And if you say, okay, well, we don't want to do that, well, all right, let's do a different thing. Whatever you want to decide in your country, all right, we'll put it all